HeartGold and SoulSilver are two of the most beloved games in the Pokemon series. A lot of this comes down to how much content is packed into these games, and how many extra features there are to find. Just when you think you've seen everything in these games, there's always something more. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at some of the hidden features and mechanics of HeartGold and SoulSilver that you might not know about or might have missed. When I say hidden features and mechanics, this might be obscure content that players can easily miss, or gameplay features that you naturally come across, but have deeper, more complex mechanics that the game doesn't tell you about and aren't super obvious. Let's start off with a hidden feature that you've probably never seen before. If you press the X, Y, and down buttons at the same time while on the title screen, you'll activate a secret microphone test feature with Jigglypuff. All you have to do is speak into the microphone and Jigglypuff will react to whatever you're saying. This is a cute feature, but I'm not quite sure why it's here. As far as I know, the microphone is only used for teaching Chatot chatter in these games and nothing else. But maybe it's because the original DS didn't have a mic test feature in the system settings, so they included this as a way for you to test the mic out. Next, let's talk about a location with a secret feature that's hiding in plain sight. There's a special house in Viridian City with a basement called the Trainer's House. When you go inside, you'll find one lone trainer that you can battle, Ace Trainer Cal. Cal's team consists of the fully evolved versions of all three Johto starters at level 50, and you can battle him once a day. So what's the deal with this place? By connecting your Pokewalker to another person's Pokewalker, you can actually battle them in this basement. Their team will consist of the Pokemon they had in their party when they last sent a Pokemon to their Pokewalker, with whatever held items they had at whatever level they were, capping at level 50. It's a very roundabout way of battling with your friends, but if you're worried about the signals of Link Battle messing with your brainwaves, this is the perfect basement for you. Next, let's talk about these games' most beloved feature, following Pokemon. Pokemon following you in the overworld has been a fan favorite feature since it was implemented for every Pokemon in HeartGold and SoulSilver. So much so that it's often been the most requested returning feature in every game since, to varying degrees of success. But in the Johto remakes, there's hidden interactions that you can see by talking to specific Pokemon on specific routes. There's too many to go over individually, but a lot of them have to do with talking to a Pokemon in a location that's significant for that species. So, talking to Magikarp and Gyarados at the Lake of Rage gives you a special interaction, as does talking to Mew and Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. You can actually call Ethan or Lara, and they will tell you to bring out a specific Pokemon if it will have a special interaction at your current location. Some of the most interesting interactions, in my opinion, are taking Togepi to Cerulean Gym, where it will cry softly, referencing Misty's Togepi. Taking an Electrode to the Rocket Hideout in Mahogany Town will cause it to tremble because of PTSD. And for some reason, taking Poliwag to the Whirl Islands causes it to swing its belly around. Big man Poliwag is ready to throw down with Lugia. These small details that you could completely miss are a big part of what give HeartGold and SoulSilver their enduring charm. But they aren't the only hidden details of following Pokemon. The higher your friendship is with the Pokemon following you, the more bites you will get while fishing. You can take advantage of this mechanic on a Pokemon with the abilities Suction Cups or Sticky Hold to really boost your chances of landing a Pokemon. And sometimes, very rarely, your following Pokemon will actually get the exclamation mark to say you've landed a bite instead of your character. Pretty cool, hey? Speaking of boosts you get from following Pokemon, breaking rocks by having the Pokemon following you use Rock Smash gives you a 5% increase to your chances of finding an item. Quick sidetrack, but finding items by breaking rocks in HeartGold and SoulSilver is actually another hidden mechanic. Basically, every location that has a Rock Smash rock has a list of items you could get from breaking it. The chances of you getting a particular item range from 5% up to 20%, and you can actually increase your chances of finding items by having Pokemon with certain abilities break the rocks. So we've got a bit of Inception here with a hidden mechanic in a hidden mechanic. But if you want to learn more about abilities with secret effects, check out this video here where I went over every ability with a hidden out-of-battle effect. Getting back to following Pokemon, and there are actually more items that they can pick up. Following Pokemon can sometimes pick up fashion accessories that you can use when dressing up your Pokemon in the Goldenrod Tunnel. Accessories aren't as useful in HeartGold and SoulSilver as they are in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, where you can use them as part of the contest minigame, but you can always collect them here and then trade them over to the Sinnoh games after. Your following Pokemon can also pick up another secret item, the Shiny Leaf. The Shiny Leaf is a rare item that your Pokemon can pick up when in tall grass, and then it appears on their status screen. The Shiny Leaf does nothing. Well, not absolutely nothing, but it does very little for an item that's very rare and quite complicated to find. Each time your Pokemon finds a shiny leaf, its friendship value increases by 5 points and its mood by 120 points. The mood value is what determines some of the responses you get when you talk to your following Pokemon. The game will tell you if a Pokemon is in a bad or good mood, and these can be influenced by things like being in an unfavorable location or trying to take an item that they've been holding onto. When you have a Pokemon that has found 5 shiny leaves, you can take it to Ethan or Lyra and they'll make a shiny crown out of the leaves, which will then appear on your Pokemon's status screen. Getting the shiny leaf crown also gives you a certificate, which shows you and the Pokemon together with the 5 shiny leaves and talks about the bond you forged together along your journey. I said the shiny leaves are hard to find, so let's go over how you actually get them. Each nature is assigned 5 routes that a Pokemon with that nature can find a shiny leaf on, and a Pokemon can only find 1 shiny leaf per route, so you need to visit all 5 routes for that nature to get all 5 leaves on one particular Pokemon. The chance of finding a shiny leaf varies too. It's supposedly around 5%, but this can be lower if a Pokemon has a status condition or has low HP, and a Pokemon in a bad mood won't be able to find a shiny leaf until they're in a better mood. So this is one niche feature that's really for true completionists. Having a Pokemon pick up 5 shiny leaves also increases your trainer card level by adding one of the 5 stars you need to upgrade your trainer card to the black level. Trainer card levels are a hidden feature that aren't exclusive to HeartGold and SoulSilver, but I'll quickly cover off the other tasks you need to complete to fully upgrade your trainer card in these games. You'll also earn a star from beating the Elite Four, completing the National Dex, excluding mythical Pokemon, beating a record in all 10 Pokeathlon events, and your final star will come from defeating 100 trainers in a row in the Battle Tower. Let's quickly go over 2 areas that every player will come across on their journey, but might not fully understand how they work: the bug catching contest and the ruins of Alph. First, the bug catching contest. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, you can participate in the bug catching contest at the National Park to try and win an evolution stone by catching the strongest bug type Pokemon. Everyone's familiar with this side of it, but how do you actually win the contest? The Pokemon you put up to be judged will be given a score that's the sum of the following numbers: the Pokemon's level, relative to the max level it can appear at in the contest, the Pokemon's total IVs, relative to the max IV total, which is 186, the Pokemon's remaining HP, relative to its max HP, and a rarity factor, which is different for each species. So let's say you caught a Caterpie. Caterpie appears between levels 7 and 18. If you were to catch a level 12 Caterpie, that's 66% of the max level for Caterpie, so you would get 66 for its level. If it had a total of 98 IVs, that's half the 186 maximum, you would get 50 for IVs. If you caught it at full HP, that's 100 points for HP, and Caterpie has a rarity score of 60. So if you add everything together, your total score for that level 12 Caterpie would be 274. For context, the maximum score you can get is 400, and that's if you can catch a maximum level Scyther or Pinsir with max IVs at full HP. There's obviously a bit of RNG involved, depending on what the NPC trainers catch. But if you follow the general principles of catching the highest level Pokemon you can find, the rarest Pokemon you can find, and catching them at full HP, you're well on your way to winning. The ruins of Alph are a bit simpler to explain. This mysterious area outside of Violet City consists of an underground hall where you can find the Wild Unknown and 4 puzzle chambers above it. The 4 puzzle chambers each have a sliding picture puzzle for you to complete, and when you do so, new letters of unknown will start appearing in the underground hall. But that's not all the secrets here to uncover. Each chamber also has a mural on the back wall with cryptic text written in unknown lettering. Each of these murals actually give you access to a hidden room, if you meet certain criteria when interacting with them. In the Kabuto puzzle chamber, you need to use an escape rope in front of the mural. In the Aerodactyl chamber, you need to use Flash in front of the mural. In the Ho-Oh chamber, you need to have Ho-Oh in your party when interacting with the mural. And in the Omanyte chamber, you need to have a water stone in your bag and then select to use it in front of the mural. Each hidden room contains a set of 4 items, and some of these are pretty useful, like the Life Orb and Mystic Water. These hidden rooms existed in Crystal as well, but they really give the vibe of finding the Regis in Gen 3, which is pretty cool in my opinion. But we still have one last secret to uncover. Once you have completed all 4 picture puzzles, unlocked all 4 hidden rooms, and caught the 26 alphabet letters of unknown, the question mark and exclamation mark forms of unknown will then start to appear in the entrance room to the underground hall. It's not the most exciting reward for unlocking all these secrets, but at least they're the only 2 letters that spawn in this area, so you can catch them pretty easily. Speaking of locations, let's talk about a very minor hidden feature that doesn't have any gameplay impact, but is still pretty cool. Quite a few locations in HeartGold and SoulSilver have preview images that pop up when you enter the area. These are for places like caves, forests, and towers. These images are actually slightly different depending on the time of day and feature different Pokemon hiding in the picture. Each location has 4 different images, one for the morning, one for daytime, one for evening, and one for nighttime. My personal favourite is watching the Dratini and Dragonair swim around the Dragon's Den, but I have to give a special shout out to the Ditto hiding in Cerulean Cave. One mechanic that the games don't really tell you about are the gym leader rematches at the Fighting Dojo in Saffron City. To rematch a gym leader, you first have to register their phone number in the PokeGear, and then once you've obtained all 16 badges, you have to call them on a specific day and at a specific time, and then they'll accept your challenge and wait for you in the dojo. There's no getting out of it. You have to give Brock a you-up call on a Saturday night if you want to rematch him. But getting the gym leaders' phone numbers in the first place is no easy feat. The gym leaders don't just give you their numbers after you beat them in battle, you have to find each of them in specific locations outside of their gyms across both Kanto and Johto. On top of that, most of them only appear at certain times of the day or certain days of the week. And some of them require you to meet certain criteria before they'll give you their phone number. Here are some of the most egregious examples. Claire appears from 6 AM to 10 AM in the Dragon's Den and will only give you her number after you've beaten her and Lance in the double battle with Silver in the post-game, which you can only do after beating Silver in battle at Mount Moon. Blue doesn't even give you his number himself. You can get it from Daisy Oak in Pallet Town at any time on any day, but you have to show her a Pokemon with max friendship after supporting her side hustle and getting her to groom your Pokemon 7 times. The worst one of the lot is Lieutenant Surge, who only appears outside the Kanto power plant for 2 hours every day between 9 and 11 AM if you've captured Zapdos. And he will only give you his number if you're walking with a Pikachu at the front of your party. I swear, he's just waiting here to jump you and get revenge on your Pikachu for his Raichu getting taken out by Ash's Pikachu. The hard work is worth it though. These rematches give each gym leader an expanded team with Pokemon from Hoenn and Sinnoh, and it's cool to see gym leaders like Faulkner and Bugsy with full teams of 6. The PokeGear is obviously used to rematch normal trainers across the regions as well. Everyone's experienced the endless calls from youngster Joey telling them it's time to face his top percentage Rattata yet again. But there is a bit more hidden depth to normal trainer rematches too. You can actually issue the rematches yourself. Each trainer has a specific day and time that calling them will trigger a rematch to become available, so you don't have to wait for them to call you on their own. Trainers will also have stronger teams for their rematches with higher level and evolved versions of their original Pokemon if you battle them again after beating the Elite Four and getting all 16 gym badges. A feature that isn't necessarily hidden, but the depths of how it work is the in-game photography. In HeartGold and SoulSilver, you can take photos with your Pokemon at various points around the Johto and Kanto regions, either by running into Cameron the photographer or by using one of the automatic camera spots. Even though Cameron is scripted to appear in specific spots on specific days of the week, he can be found at most major locations at almost any time of the day, and usually on multiple days, so it's pretty much guaranteed that you'll run into him at some point. At most spots, Cameron will take a photo of your entire party that gets saved to the photo album on your PC. But you can also get your photo taken with all 16 gym leaders, as well as some other key NPCs. Getting these photos is a bit harder than just running into Cameron on a random route though. Like with the rematches, you have to register a gym leader's phone number in the PokeGear before you can get a photo with them. And then to get the actual photo, you need to find them somewhere in the overworld on a specific day, and usually at a specific time. Most gym leaders appear in the same locations where you find them to get their phone numbers, except for Lieutenant Surge, who appears at Moo Moo Farm for a photo. Don't ask me why Lieutenant Surge is at Moo Moo Farm, I don't want to know. Just like obtaining their phone numbers, some of these secret photo opportunities require you to meet some extra conditions first. Professor Oak will only let you take your photo with him after you've completed the entire National Dex. Even though you have to put in a bit of effort, there's something special about seeing characters like gym leaders pop up randomly throughout the world. It's little details like these that make the world feel so much more alive, and why fans love these games still today. Let's stick with gym leaders just a bit longer and talk about their in-game trades. In-game trades have been around since Red and Blue, so they're by no means secret, but in HeartGold and SoulSilver, there are a couple of trades with gym leaders that are hidden away. Jasmine will trade you a Steelix for any Pokemon if you visit her in her gym after registering her phone number. Brock will trade you a Rhyhorn for a Bonsly if you speak to him in Diglett's Cave on a Saturday. And you can find Lieutenant Surge on his world tour in the Magnet train station at Saffron City, where he'll trade you a Pikachu for a Pikachu. This is because he wants the Pikachu he saw you walking with when he gave you his number at the power plant. It doesn't actually have to be the same Pikachu, you can just trade him any Pikachu. But interestingly enough, the Pikachu he gives you will be French if you're playing an English version of the game, or it will be an English language Pikachu if you're playing a non-English version of the game. But that's not all of the secret in-game trades. You can receive a Beldum from Steven Stone by trading him Fortress in the Silphco building. This trade only unlocks after you've talked to Steven a few times though. You have to have him tell you about Latias or Latios in Vermilion City, then receive a Hoenn starter from him after defeating Red, and then go and talk to him in the Pewter City Museum before you can do this trade. You're making us do a lot of work, Steven, but the Beldum is holding a Dawnstone, so it's worth it, I guess? I mentioned that you can receive Hoenn starter Pokemon from Steven, so this is a good time to talk about gift Pokemon. HeartGold and SoulSilver have a wide variety of special in-game Pokemon that you can obtain through various means. But for this video, I'm only going to focus on the ones that are hidden away or take some effort to get that isn't readily explained in-game. First up are gift eggs that hatch into Wooper, Slugma, and Mareep. You receive these from Primo in the Violet City Pokemon Center. Fun fact, Primo is actually the dude who hosts the Teachy TV show in Fire Red and Leaf Green. You receive each egg by giving Primo a specific passphrase, and each passphrase is different depending on your trainer ID number. You can use online resources to find out what passphrases you need for your trainer ID to get each egg, and Primo will also give you new PC box wallpapers by telling him other passphrases as well. These eggs are well and truly hidden features. Next, you can receive a gift Tyrogue from Kyo after defeating him in Mount Mortar. Kyo is actually the master of the fighting dojo in Saffron City and can be found at the deepest point of Mount Mortar on the first basement floor. If you have a free slot in your party after beating him, he'll gift you a level 10 Tyrogue. Next, let's talk about the gift starter Pokemon you can receive after defeating Red on Mount Silver. If you talk to Professor Oak, he'll offer you one of the Kanto starters, and if you talk to Steven at the Silphco building, he'll offer you one of the Hoenn starters. I'm talking more about the Hoenn starters being hidden here. I think it's pretty reasonable that you'd go back and talk to Professor Oak after beating Red, but I think it's a lot less likely that you'd think to go and find Steven at the Silphco building. You can also obtain a few hidden legendary Pokemon after defeating Red. If you talk to Mr. Pokemon after defeating Red and receiving a Kanto starter, he will gift you the blue orb in HeartGold and the red orb in SoulSilver. You can then take these orbs to the Embedded Tower, which is a section on Route 47 that's only accessible with Rock Climb. Once in the Embedded Tower, you can battle and capture Kyogre in HeartGold and Groudon in SoulSilver. If you then show Professor Oak both a Kyogre and Groudon caught in the Embedded Tower, he will give you the Jade Orb, which you can then take back to the Embedded Tower and use to catch Rayquaza. The Groudon and Kyogre have to be the ones from the Embedded Tower. You can't just use one that you've traded up from Gen 3. So if you want Rayquaza in these games, unfortunately, you're gonna have to find someone to trade with. You can also obtain the Sinnoh Legendary Trio in a similar way. By taking a mystery gift event Arceus to the ruins of Alph, you'll trigger an event where you'll be taken to the Sinjoh ruins. After witnessing a montage of real-world images, Arceus will create an egg that hatches a level 1 Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina, depending on which one you choose. I don't want to spend too much time on this one because it's tied to a mystery gift event that a lot of players probably didn't have access to, but it has ties to a secret area, so I'm putting it on the list. Speaking of legendaries I don't want to spend too much time talking about, let's quickly cover Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, and Mewtwo. These Kanto legendaries aren't exactly hidden, because they appear in the areas in Kanto that they normally appear in. Well, except for Moltres, who you can find in an optional path in Mount Silver. But Moltres never really had a consistent home, so this is just business as usual. What makes them hidden features in my opinion, is the fact that these legendaries don't appear in the original Johto games, and were added in as extra encounters for the remakes. So if you somehow had only played Gold, Silver, and Crystal and then played the remakes, you'd be quite surprised to find these Pokemon in their respective optional locations. The last gift Pokemon we have to talk about is definitely the most hidden. If you somehow find yourself trapped in Cianwood City without a Pokemon in your party who can learn Surf or Fly, a man inside the Pokemon Center will gift you a Tentacool so that you have a way to get off the island. This is a bit convoluted to set up because the man will only give you the Tentacool if you only have one other Pokemon and it can't learn Surf or Fly. You can't release a Pokemon that knows a HM if it's the only Pokemon you own that already knows the HM. So the simplest way to trap yourself at Cianwood City is to heal at the Cianwood City Pokemon Center, fly to another area, release all of your Pokemon except for an Abra with Teleport, deposit your Fly and Surf Pokemon in the daycare, and then use teleport to get back to Cianwood City. Once you're back, and without access to any Pokemon that can fly or surf, the man will give you the Tentacool. You can repeat this multiple times too. If you set up the same situation, or just release the Tentacool straight away without teaching it surf, the man will give you another Tentacool. I don't know what you'd need with an infinite supply of Tentacool, but you can shiny hunt this one, so go nuts, I guess. I did say that I didn't want to spend too much time on event distributions in this video, but I do feel like I have to talk about Spiky-Eared Pichu. Spiky-Eared Pichu is a special Pichu that you can obtain if you interact with the shrine in Ilex Forest while walking with a special shiny event Pichu. So this is an in-game gift Pokemon that you can only get if you have a mystery gift Pokemon in your party. Apart from her unique design, Spiky-Eared Pichu is special because she can't evolve and can't be traded either to another Gen 4 game or up to the Gen 5 games. The reason the game gives is because Spiky-Eared Pichu has traveled through time so much with Celebi, it would be too dangerous to transfer or trade her. The real reason is that there's no data for this form of Pichu in the other Gen 4 games or in the Gen 5 games. She also has different Pokeathlon stats compared to normal Pichu, and despite having data for an in-game shiny sprite, she can never be shiny. Spiky-Eared Pichu is actually such a unique Pokemon within the franchise, hidden away through layers of special events and unable to be transferred out of the games she appears in. Even though a lot of people know about her existence, I would definitely say that Spiky-Eared Pichu is a hidden feature of HeartGold and SoulSilver. This next mechanic isn't hidden by any means, but I think a lot of players don't fully understand how it works. Like in the originals, in HeartGold and SoulSilver, you can choose to send a quarter of the money you win in each battle to your mum for savings. This does a couple of things. Firstly, it creates a stash of money that you can go and withdraw at any time. Secondly, it unleashes a raging beast sleeping deep within your mother's soul, the shopaholic. Oops? What do you mean, oops, mum? You're supposed to be taking care of my money, not sitting there in front of the daytime shopping channels with my bank card in your hand. Because of this, a lot of players say no to having mum save their money so that they can earn the full amount after each battle and spend it however they want to. But you're actually missing out on some important items if you do this. The first thing to know is that your mum doesn't actually spend your money. Yes, even though she says she accidentally spent your money, nothing is actually deducted from the savings stockpile she's holding on to, which means the items she buys are actually free. You just have to put up with the inconvenience of sending off a quarter of your winnings from each battle and having to constantly go back and withdraw it. And the items that you can get from her are actually pretty good. You can get the Choice Scarf and Muscle Band a lot earlier than you normally would by having your mum purchase them, since you otherwise only get them by trading in battle points at the Battle Frontier. She can also buy you a Moonstone, which is useful if you caught either form of Nidoran early on in the game. On top of that, your mum can buy each of the varieties of super effective damage reducing berries. Every time your savings reaches a multiple of 3,000, she'll buy a set of 5 of one of the berries, which is by far the easiest way to get a hold of them. So next time your mum asks to save your money, give her a chance. It's not all daytime shopping and 9 AM Prosecco's. So far, we've talked a bit about the phone feature of the PokeGear, but let's dive into the hidden mechanics of the PokeGear's most extensive feature, the radio. Almost all the radio stations you can tune into in HeartGold and SoulSilver have special effects that aren't made obvious to the player. You've probably tuned into the radio while visiting the ruins of Alph to hear the slightly creepy, mysterious transmission that only plays in that location. This transmission actually increases your chances of finding letters of unknown that you haven't seen yet if you play it while exploring the underground hall. Pokemon Talk is the show Professor Oak hosts with DJ Mary that most of the time just has the two talking about random bits of Pokemon knowledge. But after you obtain the National Dex, Professor Oak will broadcast the location of mass outbreaks of Pokemon when they occur across Johto and Kanto. Each mass outbreak lasts for 1 day and spawns a specific Pokemon on a route that it doesn't normally appear on, with an encounter chance of 40%. You probably have used this feature, but if you just flicked on the radio at the start of your journey to see what it was about and then never touched it again, you could completely miss the mass outbreaks mechanic. The Pokemon Music channel is the most feature-packed radio channel of them all and hosts 5 different programs. Pokemon March airs on Monday and Friday and doubles the encounter rate of wild Pokemon. Pokemon Lullaby airs on Tuesdays and Saturdays and does the opposite, reducing the wild encounter rate by half. Hoenn and Sinnoh Sound are the 2 shows where you probably have used their effects before. These shows air after you obtain the National Dex on Wednesday and Thursday respectively, and allow you to encounter Pokemon from Hoenn and Sinnoh when playing these shows on the radio. These Gen 3 and 4 Pokemon can only be found in HeartGold and SoulSilver by using these radio shows or in the Safari Zone, making them reasonably hard to find. The final music show doesn't have a secret effect, but it's still a relatively hidden feature. Pokemon Past Archive is a radio show that airs on Sunday after you've obtained the National Dex and after getting the GB Sounds item from a Game Freak employee in Celadon City. The GB Sounds is another hidden feature in these games that lets you change the music to chiptune versions of each track to emulate the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal soundtracks from the Game Boy Color. The Pokemon Past Archive show plays chiptune versions of songs that you can't hear in-game with the GB Sounds turned on, and some of the chiptune tracks that are rarely heard in the game. So these are tracks like the opening title music, Usain's theme, and Giovanni's Team Rocket theme. The last radio channel I want to talk about is the Variety channel. This channel also has multiple shows, but none of them have hidden effects on catching Pokemon like the music channel. Instead, these shows just have hidden stories that you've never interacted with. Buena's Password is the main show on the Variety channel that airs every 3 hours and gives out a password you can bring to the Goldenrod radio tower to earn points that you can then use to redeem items like rare candies and nuggets. Buena's show is probably the one that you've already interacted with, but it's the other 2 shows on the Variety channel that I wanted to bring up. Pokemon Search Party and the serial radio drama are the other 2 shows that air on the Variety channel in the hours between Buena's Password. Pokemon Search Party is a documentary series that covers a crew exploring different landmarks in Johto and Kanto, such as the ruins of Alph and Cerulean Cave. And the serial radio drama is exactly what it says. A series of radio dramas that tell a few different stories and each come with multiple episodes. These dramas and documentaries don't have any special in-game effects, they're just extra bits of content for you to find, and they show off a level of care and detail that went into these games. Speaking of detail, but not so much care, it's time to talk about the Johto Safari Zone. The HeartGold and SoulSilver Safari Zone could genuinely be a whole video on its own because of how convoluted and obscure its mechanics are. But I'm going to do my best to give a short and concise explanation here. The Johto Safari Zone was added in the remakes to a new area west of Cianwood City. The basic premise of the Safari game is the same as most other games. You get 30 Safari Balls to try and catch Pokemon with, and you use bait and mud instead of battling with them. The Johto Safari Zone doesn't have a step limit, so you're free to explore the whole area as much as you like, and the game only ends if you quit or run out of Safari Balls. Not having a step limit is important because you can customize the layout of the Safari Zone. You can change the position of the different areas within the Safari Zone, and you can even customize the features in each area, such as placing rocks, shrubs, and fences. These are called block upgrades, and we'll come back to them in a second. Each area of the Safari Zone has a default list of Pokemon you can encounter there, which match the biome of that area. But each area also has a list of Pokemon that can appear based on your block upgrades for that area. You can do a little bit of customization when you first unlock the Safari Zone, where the Safari Warden will give you a couple of quests to teach you about the basics of the area customization. But you unlock block upgrades after getting the National Dex, and that's the part that I'm going to focus on. Each object that you can place in the Safari Zone has a block type: Plains, Forest, Peak, Waterside, and Other. The objects in the Other category are just for decoration, but the rest of the objects generate a score for their block type once you place them in an area. The extra Pokemon in each area start appearing once you reach a specific score for a certain block type in that area that matches the Pokemon species. So let's take the Peak area for example. Here is the list of extra encounters you can get by reaching certain block scores. Fearow will start appearing once you reach a Forest block score of 5, while Slowbro will appear once you reach a Waterside block score of 5. Some Pokemon even require 2 different block scores at once, like Vigoroth, who needs a Forest score of 56 and a Plains score of 28. So you get block points by placing an object of that block type in an area. But how do you increase your block score? Do you just fill an area full up with these objects? Not quite. You can only place a maximum of 30 objects in any area, so you can't get some of those rarer Pokemon just by filling up the area with blocks. You have to increase the block score each object generates, and you can only do this by leaving the blocks in an area for multiple real-world days. Yeah, you heard me right, real-world days. The block score each object can generate is multiplied based on how many days the area it's in has been active. So a single Plains object generates 1 Plains block score. After 10 days, that Plains object will then generate 2 Plains block score. After 50 days, it generates 3 score, and so on until it reaches a max of 7 after 250 days. Each of the block types reach their score multiplier on slightly different days, but they all max out at 7 block score after 250 days. So if you wanted to encounter Vigoroth from before, you could fill the peak area with 19 forest objects and 11 plains objects. Then you would have to wait 60 days for both the forest and plains multiplier to reach 3 times, which would give you a total forest score of 57 and a total plains score of 33, enough to meet the requirements for Vigoroth. This is just a simple explanation that has already gone on too long, but I don't know how you're supposed to know any of this. The game never tells you what block scores you need for a specific Pokemon, or exactly what block score you have for an area. The Safari Warden will sometimes call you to tell you that an area has been upgraded, which means enough days have passed that its multiplier has increased. But this doesn't always happen. This hidden feature is probably the only one on this list that's just frustrating and straight up obtuse. Let's simplify things and talk about a fun hidden event. If you make your way to the top of Mount Moon, you'll come across Mount Moon Square. Mount Moon Square is home to a small shop that sells a few basic items, as well as a small pond surrounded by a field of flowers. If you visit Mount Moon Square between 8 PM on Monday night and 4 AM on Tuesday, you will trigger a secret event where a group of Clefairy gather around the pond to dance around the reflection of the moon. At one point, a Clefairy will spot you and then run away, leaving behind a moonstone for you to pick up. The Clefairy event repeats every week, so you can go and watch the Clefairy dance every Monday night if you want to get multiple moonstones. Or if you just want to watch the Clefairy dance, I don't judge. Similar to finding Clefairy at Mount Moon, there's another secret Pokemon encounter that you can find in Union Cave. On Fridays, if you make your way to the second basement floor of Union Cave and go down to the large pool of water at the bottom, you'll find a Lapras just chilling, waiting to battle you. Lapras doesn't do any special dance like Clefairy, but if you don't have the patience for the Safari Zone, which I don't blame you, this is a great way to get yourself a Lapras. Another area with a hidden mechanic is the Lake of Rage. This is the famous lake where you can catch the shiny red Gyarados and is also noteworthy for the fact that it's always raining here. After you clear out Team Rocket's hideout in Mahogany Town, every Wednesday, the rain actually stops at the Lake of Rage and the water level in the lake will drop. This allows you to access some paths that aren't available on every other day where you can find extra items. It also makes a new trainer appear, Ace Trainer Alton, who battles you with a team consisting of the middle stages of the 3 Kanto starters. We've already talked a fair bit about how the days of the week impact some of these hidden mechanics and features, but there's another hidden mechanic in HeartGold and SoulSilver that really embodies these games' connections to the calendar. The Weekday siblings are a set of 7 NPCs that appear in set locations across the Johto region on specific days of the week, and each one gives you an item the first time you meet them. Monica appears on Mondays on Route 40 and gives you a sharp beak. Tuscany appears on Tuesday on Route 29 to give you a twisted spoon. Wesley makes use of the Lake of Rage drying out on Wednesdays and can be found in the path in Unlocks to give you the black belt. Arthur gives you a hard stone on Thursday on Route 36. Frida gives you a poison barb on Route 32 on Friday. Santos appears in Blackthorn City on Saturday to give you soft sand. And Sunny appears on Sundays on Route 37 to give you a magnet. These siblings exist as a way for you to get these type boosting items easily, but there's every chance you could miss them completely if you never happen to go past their location on the right day of the week. If you find a sibling for a second time after meeting all of the other siblings, they will each give your Pokemon a unique ribbon. These ribbons appear in multiple games and are always related to the day of the week you receive them. You get the Alert ribbon on Monday, Shock ribbon on Tuesday, Downcast ribbon on Wednesday, Careless ribbon on Thursday, Relax ribbon on Friday, Snooze ribbon on Saturday, and the Smile ribbon on Sunday. My favorite ribbon is the Downcast ribbon. Truly the most accurate way to describe Wednesday blues. There are a few other minor impacts that the days of the week have on some of the shops that you visit throughout the game. I'm not going to go over shops like the Haircut Brothers or the Herb Shop because the day of the week just determines if they're open or not, and you can find this information just by interacting with the shops in the game. But there is one shop that's a bit different. The rooftop level of the Goldenrod department store holds a raffle every day where you can win one of 3 prizes. The most common prize are berries, which you have a 60% chance of winning and actually don't change with the day of the week. If you win a berry, it will just be a random one from this list here. But the uncommon and rare prizes do change with the day of the week. You have a 35% chance of winning the uncommon prize, which is a specialty Pokeball that's different each day of the week. The rare prize only has a 5% chance of coming up and is a TM that changes each day. On Mondays, you can get Shadow Claw, Tuesdays, you can win Flash Cannon. Wednesday is your chance to get Charge Beam. Thursday is Drain Punch. Friday is Facade. Saturday is Silverwind. And Sunday is Dragon Claw. You can enter the raffle multiple times a day as long as you have the money. So you can just keep spinning that wheel until you get the TM prize for that day. And in a generation with single-use TMs, it's a great way to get multiple copies of some powerful TMs. That's not the last hidden mechanic tied to the days of the week though. After battling with Silver against Claire and Lance in the Dragon's Den, you can find him in a couple of different spots around the region on different days. On Mondays and Wednesdays, he will challenge you to a rematch at the Indigo Plateau if you try and enter the Elite Four. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can find him at the Dragon's Den training his Pokemon. He won't battle you there, but he will say that he's training to beat you. So there you go. There's a look at most of the hidden mechanics and features in HeartGold and SoulSilver. Like I said throughout the video, I think a big part of why these games get so much love in the community is because they're packed full of these features that constantly give you something new to discover and really make the world of Kanto and Johto feel alive with things happening. But I'm sure I probably missed one, so let me know in the comments if there's a feature that I didn't cover. I'm pretty keen to go over all the games to see what hidden mechanics each of them have, so if that's something you'd like to see, let me know. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.